Hey everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video review, and today we're going to be doing Batman, the Chalice. Take a look at this comic cover right here. Now, Batman Chalice is very much different from every other Batman story out there, because this story deals with religion. Now, of course, religious themes may come up in Batman stories, but Batman's not really a character that's religious-based. Batman has no religious beliefs. He doesn't believe in a higher power or an afterlife. And his stories tend to stray away from religion, although religion does come up every once in a while. However, Chalice is a story that's main focus is that of religion, mainly the Holy Grail. Now, before we actually get into the story itself, I'd like to point out that Chuck Dixon is the writer of this book, and as some of you guys may or may not know, Chuck Dixon is my favorite Batman writer, at least he's right up there. He's known for writing many of the Batman books during the 90s, and not just Batman, but Nightwing, Robin, some Birds of Prey. He was the orchestrator, the controller of the Batman universe, with Dennis O'Neil behind him, blessing him with his mighty hand of Bat Godness. So Chuck Dixon is a very, very, very good Batman writer, and a very competent writer at everything else. So, will he be able to pull off a Batman story based on religion? Well, we're going to have to see. Let's get into the story itself. The story starts off with Batman dealing with Two-Face. There's really no point to this at all. The only real thing that comes out is this Batman gets wounded, and that plays up a little bit later on. But when he comes back, he gets a package addressed to his father. Now, obviously, something's up here because his father's dead. Batman takes the package, opens it up, and travels to the person that sent it to him, and finds out that the person that sent him the package is an individual that's lived for over 200 years. Oh, well, if it wasn't comic books, I think that would be quite ridiculous, but seeing that we live in the world of comic books, that's not too far-fetched. Anyways, he hands Bruce Wayne a package, or at least his assistant does, and this contains the Holy Grail, the last cup that Jesus had in the Last Supper. Batman takes the cup, because apparently his family is part of a line of protectors of the Holy Grail. Now, what I find funny in this is that Batman actually takes the cup to protect it. Why he didn't destroy it, I don't know. Hear me out. Now, the Holy Grail is something to keep away from evil, but it's not like the good guys can use it at all. So why not just destroy it? I know Jesus used the Holy Grail at the end of the Last Supper, but don't you think Jesus would be a lot happier if the Holy Grail was destroyed to keep it out of the hands of evil? It's not like the good guys are allowed to use it at all. Anyways, Batman takes the cup, and he brings it back to Gotham. He tries every single freaking test he can use on it, but nothing comes up positive. It's just an ordinary cup. However, he decides to do a leap of faith, no pun intended, pour water in the cup, and then pour the cup's water into his wound, and it miraculously heals. So Batman finds out this is the real McCoy, and he needs to defend it, so he locks it up in his vault. Now, see, a lot of people are after the cup. There's a few major players in this, one being, of course, Ra's al Ghul, the Demon Head, the Immortal Man, the dude with the coolest streaks of gray in his hair. Ra's al Ghul wants the cup for his own purpose. It's not actually for himself, it's for someone else, and if you know, it's for Talia al Ghul. Come on, it's pretty obvious. Now, I find this pretty interesting that he wants the Holy Grail to give Talia al Ghul eternal life. Why does he just push her into one of the Lazarus pits? I don't know, but whatever. In addition to that, Penguin somehow finds out about the Holy Grail, and he hires Catwoman to steal it from Bruce Wayne. Okay, well, how does he know about the Holy Grail? Whatever, it's a Penguin, he probably has some connections. So anyway, Catwoman goes in and tries to take the Holy Grail, only to find Alfred there with a shotgun. And the last player is someone I don't care about. It's someone that was one of the protectors of the Holy Grail, I think. I don't know. They're not really that important because they really make such a minor appearance, and really we don't have enough time to even know who their name is. Like, I know I saw their name and I tried to remember it, but I just didn't seem to care at all. Anyway, so we have those 2.5 players in this book. We have Penguin using Catwoman and Ra's al Ghul going after the Grail itself. Batman goes up against Ra's al Ghul, while Alfred and Catwoman try to defend Wayne Manor from these intruders. Is Batman able to protect the Holy Grail, and if so, what does he do with the Holy Grail? Does he keep it? Does he destroy it? Does he give it to someone else? Or is Ra's al Ghul successful in taking the Holy Grail and just decides not to use it at all? Well, you're going to have to read to get the answers. So with that said, let's get into the good, the bad, and whether or not you should get it. And I think it's really good that we're starting off with good, because we're going to need the good. Now, one good point to this is the art was actually pretty good. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of painted art. One thing I can say about painted art, like in this and Night Cries, is that the art really jumps at you and it sets a tone and a mood and is very gripping, which is cool. This art was actually very nice and I enjoyed it. At some points I think that they were pictures taken and they just kind of did Photoshop on them, like trees and houses and cars. But on the whole, the art was actually pretty good. Do I want to see it in future Batman comics? No, not really. But it was actually pretty satisfying. In addition to that, all the characters, for the most part, felt like they're respected characters. I mean, this is Chuck Dixon writing it, so all the characters felt like who they are. With the exception of one instance with Batman, which I'll get into when I go into the bad. So, for the most part, the characters felt good, and the dialogue was written nicely. So we have that stuff, and this also nudges to continuity. Seeing that this is a story in continuity, Azrael shows up in it, reference to Robin and Nightwing are made in it, so this doesn't feel like some kind of one-shot that could be an Elseworld story. This is set in continuity, and I will try to give you a pinpoint accuracy on where it belongs. On to the bad. Well, the first major bad is mixing Batman with religion is probably not the best idea. I mean, no matter how good you do with the story, it just doesn't seem like it fits well. So, I would have not picked religion or the Holy Grail as a story for Batman. Maybe if he was investigating a murder that was religious or cult-based, that'd be okay. But, I mean, doing a story where it's Batman being a defender of religion, it just doesn't feel right. Like I said, there's been many themes of religion in Batman. I mean, look at Azrael himself. He is a character that's very much based on religion. But having Batman be a representation of a crusader or a paladin or a religious figure protecting the Holy Grail just doesn't feel right. Like I said, most of the characters feel good, although there were a few instances where Batman kind of played off that he did believe in God or he believed that this was his calling, but it just felt out of character for Batman. There's one point where he offered the Holy Grail to Oracle to heal her back, and she said that she doesn't believe in God. And Batman surprisingly said, "What? You don't believe in God?" Well, Batman, you don't either, so don't ask the prize. Anyways, the funny thing I think about Batman is the fact is he doesn't believe in God or higher power or afterlife. But there's so much evidence around him, at least in the DC universe, that there is some kind of magical afterlife. I mean, look at the characters Dr. Fate, Satana, Jason Blood. Geez, there's tons of characters based in magic. So would it really be that far-fetched that some of the religions, or at least there would be a higher power out there, would exist? Whatever. But just the fact that Batman acts like he believes in something just feels a little off of the character. There's really only that character too. And that and Ra's al Ghul acts like an idiot at the end, but you're also gonna have to see that. The plot is also way too quick. I read this in less than 20 minutes. Look how thick it is. It's not a huge book, but just the fact is that you read through this so quickly. And there wasn't enough time to really develop a story or for me to really care about the story. If this was a bit longer, or if they actually broke it up into chapters rather than one continuous story, I think it would have been a little bit better for the story because we would have cared about the players, the actual plot of the story. It just didn't feel right. Whether or not you should get it. Well, Chalice is definitely a story that's not necessarily liked by a lot of fans. Some people downright hate it, and put it in the chapter of Fortune's Son. I wouldn't put it that low. Fortune's Son is by far one of the worst Batman stories there is. But Chalice is in no way a good Batman story. Chalice is a story that you can read, put down, and say, okay, that didn't offend me at all. Chalice is really a story that feels like Chuck Dixon was given a subject. Here, Chuck Dixon, write something about Batman and the Holy Grail. And he kind of went, really? Do I have to? Now, whether or not Chuck Dixon really wanted to do this, or if it was his idea, I don't know. I don't really care, because it's mute. There's no point to saying what it was. But it just felt as though Chuck Dixon tried his best to write good with a really sloppy plot that didn't really relate to Batman. There are a few key good points to this. I like how it's in continuity. I like how it kind of makes a nod to continuity. I like how the characters are portrayed for the most part. And I like some of the players in this, but I feel as though the plot was pretty weak. It was a short story, and Batman's hiccupless face is a little distressing. The story was a little bit longer and was actually an Azrael story. I think it would have been actually a fantastic story. Seeing Azrael as a character that's really rooted in religion and faith. But for Batman, the story isn't quite the same. Now, like I said, this is definitely not an absolutely horrible story that will offend you, but in no way, shape, or form is this a story that you should go and pick up. I would definitely say this is a story that you should avoid. With the exception of the Batman completists that need to get everything like I do, this isn't necessary, don't pick it up, avoid it. Now, some of you guys are saying, but Andrew, Chuck Dixon, he writes it, and you say he's one of your favorite Batman writers. That's the case. But see, the thing is my opinions on writers is that writers are human. They're going to make mistakes, they're going to have bad comics, they're going to do something wrong. That's why I'm very easy on people that do writing, because they do it a lot better than I can. They have a skill and talent that I don't have. And not everyone's perfect. So out of the 9 million Batman stories that Chuck Dixon has that has given me a fifth dimensional orgasm, I'm sure one bad Batman story is okay, at least in my book. So in the end, Batman Chalice, you probably shouldn't pick it up. Before I end this review, you're probably asking where it belongs to continuity. Assuming that you go by my timeline, which is, for the most part, accurate, not tooting my own horn, but that's pretty much it, I would place this sometimes after Batman Anarchy and before Batman Contagion. The reason for this is because Azrael is clearly a rogue again, and this would be after Batman Nightfall, and after Prodigal seeing Bruce Wayne as Batman. In addition to that, they make reference to this as the first time Batman has gone up against Ra's al Ghul in many years, so it has to be before Contagion or Legacy, which are a Ra's al Ghul-based story. So if it took place after Contagion and Legacy, it just wouldn't fit. So if you had to put it in your timeline, I'd put it after Batman Prodigal/Anarchy and before Contagion. With that said, I'm ending this review here. Batman Challenge. It won't hurt you, but I wouldn't bother. This is Andrew saying peace out for now.